Welcome to the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. Of course, we are powered by Precision Metal Forming Association. I'm your host, Dean Phillips, and I'm glad to be here today. Right off the bat, I'm going to introduce you to TCR, an integrated stamping systems. And I have with me, fortunately, the president of TCR, Mr. Todd Wenzel. Todd, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. Thanks for inviting me on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what I'd like to do is I always ask everybody, what is your big takeaway for the future of manufacturing? What do you see happening over the next 5 years, let's say?
Well, I believe that we're going to see a continued and accelerated move towards de-globalization. All signs are really pointing to the pain felt during the pandemic, and supply chain issues are driving people back, for us, back to North America. We're very fortunately situated in North America. In the United States, we have a lot of resources and water and energy and people, and we have a great big advantage here. You know, the North America, especially if you combine Canada and Mexico, can stand alone as its own trading group without the rest of the world if it has to. And
Sure.
We're seeing a lot of our suppliers moving work, either reshoring or nearshoring, and that we believe that's going to have a significant impact on U.S. manufacturing, and Canadian and Mexican.
That's great. And do you think that we learned our lesson? We didn't seem to learn our lesson when we had the chip shortage and technology shortage, when Japan had their both the tsunami and then the subsequent atomic issues, and we had a shortage at that time, and everybody said the same thing. Well, we're not going to let that happen again. We're going to, make sure that we move everything back, and then a few years later we have COVID, and we had the same thing happen.
Same exposure, yeah.
Yeah.
It won't be. I don't see 100%. First of all, I don't expect 100% rush back to North America for everything. We are seeing a tremendous departure of manufacturing, leaving China and going to other nearby countries. I can see some of that growth there. The United States has always remained strong in the very technical and more difficult manufacturing. That, I think we see that happening. Mexico has become very strong at manufacturing as well in this median range of difficulty. So I really don't expect 100% everything to come back. I really don't. But we're seeing everyone's trying to shorten these supply chains up. So I would expect a lot more growth in a significant way.
Right.
I mean, people are into what makes economic sense, but some of the challenges I think that are, and from what I'm reading and the people I'm listening to, certainly in China and also to Europe is in a greater extent, is a really issue driven by demographics. There aren't enough people in the working age ranges relative to the people going into retirement. Mm-hmm. And so that working age range drives the economies, the local economies, and supplies the workforce. And they have a significant challenge,
right,
which is going to force manufacturing to move work back. I think it's not a. I think as a practical matter, it has to happen. Mm-hmm. Based on what I'm seeing and reading. So that's my thought on that. So I think we're going to see more effort coming this direction.
Good. I'm looking forward to more of it.
Yeah. Well, I am too. And manufacturing is it's a powerful, positive force for any community, right? These are really good jobs, and they bring income comes into the community from customer base all over the world or around the country. So it's a really net positive for the communities that have it. So it's a great financial gain for the community when that happens. Yeah. Certainly, we have seen with the CHIPS Act a tremendous boost and push towards those technologies. And while it took a couple of years to go online, the chips manufacturing is coming back in a significant way. And that was a major net positive development. I mean, like any anything that comes from Congress is usually a little bit of both there. But I see that as a positive, you know.
Yeah.
Another trend, and you were talking about trends of the next 5 years, and one of the things that we're seeing through our vendor base, I don't work as directly with automotive. We do a little bit of work in automotive, certainly in the tiers. But what I'm getting from our major capital equipment suppliers that we work with, AIDA particularly, is that across the board, auto manufacturers are retreating pretty significantly from the EV market. What they're basically acknowledging is that the adoption of this technology is not going to happen as rapidly as politicians would like to tell you it's going to. It's just not going to happen. And I think anyone that, you know, there's significant challenges with it, especially with the adoption of electrical grid that's really built to support it, charging stations ready to support it, and challenges with the technology in the northern half of the country, you know, where I live. It's difficult when your vehicle mileage drops significantly. But regardless, all those reasons why, what is not a question is that they are definitely have come to the conclusion that the major automotive makers are backing away from EV. They're working on the next generations of ICE engines and ICE vehicles. They're not going to be able to dodge another model year or two. They're going to have no choice but to continue making the gas vehicles and hybrid. And that's another thing that's going to impact broadly our particular industry, metal stamping, right? So a lot of the people that made those components that are more unique to ICE vehicles are not going to see that market go away anytime soon. I think there might be a time when it does, but nowhere.
And for those of us who don't know what ICE is,
internal combustion engine, the cars that you and I grew up knowing and love, right? Internal combustion engines, ICE engines. And the EV is the electrical vehicle market. So the adoption of electrical vehicles is not happening as rapidly as projected by very optimistic people on TV. And it's just not actually happening.
Right.
And
we've seen a rollback on that.
Yeah, it is broadly, and we're seeing it everywhere. And I just saw a story the other day. I think it was Toyota's chairman or someone at Toyota. And again, I apologize if I'm wrong there with that. But it was like, we'll just handle this by buying more credits for carbon. Because the reality is that makes more sense for us right now. There isn't going to be this market that everyone wants us to believe is going to happen. It probably will, but not as quickly.
Right.
So those two things, though, this I think are really a major impact on a rollback on the global market where people are, and if that happens, right, and it really everything seems to be pointing to it. The United States in particular is very well situated with natural resources here, with real quality of workmanship. You know, we have real qualified employees. And when we look at our partners with Canada and Mexico, which effectively we are this big trading group back and forth, there's very little we can't tackle very efficiently.
Right.
And in recent, well, another point of this, very recent last month or two, there's been very significant discoveries of many of the rare earth materials in the West that are going to lead to us being even self-sufficient in things that people thought, well, we're not going to have neodymium because that's all in China. Well, it turns out that's not the case. And a lot of other very important rare earth materials are being discovered here. So it looks like this is going to be a very good time in America for the coming decades. Right? We're well prepared for that. Right.
Now, tell me, how does automation factor into this picture?
Well, I'm going to speak first my area of the country, which is Wisconsin, Minnesota. Right. So Wisconsin, Minnesota, like many of the states, has a demographic issue as well. Not as bad as Europe and China, but where instead of having this pyramid with the retirees at the top and a very broad base of middle-aged and younger people, it's getting more like this, right? And the fundamental challenge is it takes 25 years to make a 25-year-old person. Right?
So, fair enough.
Yes. Well, and people say, well, these kids don't want to work today. Well, I don't believe that to be true at all. There's fewer of them. There are fewer people in the age ranges that would typically be employed in our manufacturing plants. So our manufacturers are working very hard to make sure they have a safe working environment, try to make it more pleasant, make the jobs more interesting, more challenging. There's a significant, because they're competing for the smaller work base, so they're trying to become attractive, better benefits, better pay, things like that. It drives now, but if you have fewer people to do the work, there's only a couple of choices, right? If you keep doing it the old way, but you can't get them, or you have to keep paying them more and more to get them, and right now you're having trouble even getting them, you'll go out of business. Or you can ship the jobs to where the workers are. And that's what globalization really was, right? Let's ship that work to here. Let's ship the assembly work to a poorer nation that's not as developed yet, and the wages are very low. So you can go out of business because you can't keep doing it the old way. You can ship the jobs from where you are to where the people are, or you can adopt more automation so fewer people can do more work more efficiently. And so automation has been a significant part of what we do and what our client base has been doing for a long time. And that is a big bucket. People tend to think of robots when they think of automation. And I look at it much more broadly. It's any technology that allows fewer people to do more work so that same size group can produce more. There's no end of examples in Wisconsin of clients that we have had who were early and all in and did a lot of automation early. And in not one case did anyone shrink their workforce. They just grew their company without having to add.
Right.
It's not shedding jobs. I have people now who are doing automation because they can't get enough people, period. It's really become very clear. Like, I cannot continue doing this. I can't just throw people at it.
Right.
It's just not feasible.
And it's interesting you say that, because that became one of the things that was highlighted. The solution that I heard from a lot of people was, well, we'll just, we'll start training. Okay, how long is it going to take you, as you said, to develop this person from ground zero to where we actually have a worker who's functional? How many years? Maybe it's 4 years, maybe it's 8, maybe it's 12, till we can build up that pipeline. But in the meantime, you still have to put product out. You still have to produce. So how do you do that? And I think automation has really been the key to that, to keep up with the demand while having a shrinking workforce that
Absolutely.
we had. And it wasn't shrinking because we were laying people off. It was shrinking because we couldn't find people.
Just demographics, right?
Right.
The World War II generation, the generations ever since have been getting smaller, which is very commonly seen all across the world. Is you become less, if people move to the cities, instead of your kids being a team of 8 or 10 free employees that work on your farm, they become 8 or 10 kids you have to feed in an apartment in the city. There's a natural, that's a challenge, right? So you see that across the country. I'd say another aspect of automation we're seeing too is to extend the lifespan or the working years of our employees who are really, really knowledgeable. But it's just getting hard. The job is more challenging. I certainly feel it every time I have to get up and get down. So I notice it. So we're finding ourselves doing types of automation that people, again, wouldn't think of automation. But we're automating functions on a coil line that before you'd have grabbed a wrench and you'd have used a crank. And now you push a button and the feed cabinet raises up to the right height. And we're making it so they don't have to carry the coil. And we're going to make sure they can cut the bands and thread up without having to stand up and in a precarious position and try and cut bands. And we're going to make it so they can take this work out. Well, now somebody says, you might have a staff member who's very experienced, but by Wednesday, they're just tired and they're sore. They're like, I'm sick of this. And he can retire if he wants to, or she can retire if she wants to. They can. But now you take that work out of their job and you use what they're doing from the neck up by automating certain functions, right? Again, it's not a robot assembling a part. It's just, how do I take this work out? And all of a sudden we have, now I feel fine on Friday. I'm good to go. I'll work a couple more years, right? How far can I extend that and keep that knowledge in-house? So it's another thing we're seeing.
I think you had a really impactful point there with what how do we extend that and add value to what people can do nowadays?
Mhm.
And there's opportunities, I think, with things like making the work easier through using exoskeletons and things like that that can make a job that would normally take two people, or it would take a person and they would greatly be diminished because of how much effort it took physically to
Right.
manipulate or carry parts or move things.
Mhm.
How does automation package of that, how does that fit into the actual material handling aspect beyond the mission? So you come in, you have raw material come in, it's
Mhm.
produced into a part or a shape, and then we go to the next process or to a shipping area. How does that solution fit in to this?
Well, there's a couple aspects to that. In the more traditional sense of automation, I have certainly seen some large clients who used to make heavier parts using 6, 8 people and moving very heavy parts in conveyors or roller conveyors, and 2 people picking up these parts to load them and 2 people to unload them, convert to automation, what we would traditionally think of automation, right? Like a big AP&T transfer system, grabbing a part and moving them from this press to that press. So
Right.
that type of material handling is certainly, we're seeing some of these more difficult hand-fed work is really becoming a prime target for automation, because of the difficulty of keeping people there, and also the likelihood of injury, things like that. Other material handling, I'm certainly seeing more people trying to provide material handling solutions that the operators can run at the machines. So very highly efficient tugger cart systems where they'll, like a train, they can pick it up and carry, drive it away. They can handle a smaller amount of weight, but the operators are dealing with less weight, but not always necessarily waiting for a fork truck. They're providing material handling for them right there at the. So I'm seeing a lot more overhead cranes and jib cranes and A-frame cranes and things like that. I haven't seen any of the Waldos yet, the big exoskeletons. I mean, I'm aware of the technology. I've only seen them on the internet and TV, but I haven't. Well, even when I say that now, I shouldn't say that, because I certainly have seen people handling large parts with manipulators, big vacuum up, which is not a worn exoskeleton, but certainly is a great force multiplier. One person can pick up a very large, heavy part. 200-pound part doesn't become 2 people. It's one
Right.
person, no problem, right, handling it that way.
I think I think that's interesting because I think you can expound on uh, a force multiplier, not only force multiplier from the physical thing of how much can this weight lift and having a mechanical advantage of some sort to do that, but also the force multiplier that we have for our people. What is how do we take the same number of people and produce more?
Mm-hmm.
And do you
Yeah,
see that being part of the next 5-year plan of where we're going?
absolutely. I mean, certainly every year people are trying to become more efficient, right? So the value what workers can produce today is greater than ever was. We've seen it most clearly in the what I'm going to call the blue collar jobs, where fewer people can efficiently manufacture more things, and we're going to continue to see that. And some of these things aren't even automation, right? It's adoption of lean practices, like a real wholehearted, not, oh yeah, we do lean because I saw it and my boss said we're supposed to. I mean, but my clients that have adopted lean in the sense that it's really intended to be, where it's a continuous process, and they refine and they eliminate steps and they push the decisions down as close to the workforce as they can to figure out ways to become more efficient. And there's sprinklings of new equipment in there, but often it's just a better process. So I think we have not plumbed the depths of that by any means, and we're going to continue to see it. Another real force multiplier that's obviously making the scene right now is AI. So I'm going to talk about ChatGPT for an example. And ChatGPT is automation for your white collar workers. And I'm going to give you a couple examples that people might not have thought of, or maybe they have, but for an example, I was working with one of my team members, and I gave it as short and obscure a prompt as I could, practically, which is explain how to set the shut height on a mechanical press. This is a very industry specific knowledge piece, right? The ChatGPT popped out a 12-step standard work instruction in that format, bullet point, all this. And I handed it to my best setup guy. He's in Salesforce now, but he was a setup man for years. He read through it and he said, it's correct. He said, I would probably, for this press, I would add this, or I would add that. And I can make it more specific to this machine. But he said, it just spit it right out for him. If I would have asked him to write the standard work process, I don't know how long it would have taken him, because he's really good at what he does, but that doesn't mean he's a skilled technical writer. But I could hand him, here, do this. Tell me how to do this. How do you shrink fit a bearing? And now give it to your mechanic that really knows and have him refine it. And I'm taking standard work instruction and process instructions and things like that it can generate very rapidly with a knowledgeable person, then reviewing it, making sure it's correct and refining it, and generating work product from the neck up incredibly fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's remarkable. So there's a level of efficiency gain there too. Anyone that's ever sat in front of a blank email or start a chapter of something just to get kicked off, like move this forward and get its ball rolling. So we use AI here pretty routinely. Almost everyone in the company uses it at some level or another. And it might not be daily for everyone, but it's weekly for a lot of us. And it's just another tool that allows you to get more done, more efficient.
Yeah.
So just for your sake, right? How can I use the same number of people to get more done?
Yeah.
Right.
So, Todd, we are just about out of time here. I do want to thank, of course, TCR for being here today, and Todd specifically for being here. Right now, I'd like you to say, why are you involved with the PMA? Why are you, what is your interest, or what is it that you're passionate about that aligns with the Precision Metal Forming Association?
Well, the Precision Metal Forming Association for us aligns with really our core of what our company does, which is to help our clients become more competitive. We want to help these manufacturers where we work get to develop and become stronger and stronger and more competitive locally and even globally. And because we really see the value of these jobs in our communities, right? These are good paying jobs that generate stable positions, strong communities, good tax revenues to support the communities, and they strengthen our country, right? So there's an immediate impact at the local level, there's immediate impact for even the nation, and a huge impact for our employees, the staff.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's PMA's mission, and ours are very closely aligned. So we do a lot with PMA because we appreciate the opportunities that they do, and we want to give back. So being able to, it's why I do all the training sessions I do in seminars and write articles, because I feel an obligation to share what we learn, right? So PMA is a really, really strong organization there, and it's just keep getting bigger and stronger all the time. And this mission to help foster manufacturing, a positive environment for manufacturing, aligns perfectly with our vision and mission here. So
tremendous.
How
can people reach you?
Well, we can be found on the internet. Obviously, TCR Integrated Stamping Systems is the name you would find us. Stamping Systems is actually our website, stampingsystems.com. And or you can, I think you can find us on PMA as well. I wasn't really thinking about that. I can make sure you'll have to give us a display here. And you can find us at our new address. We just bought a factory. So we moved our facility to a much larger facility with some machine tools. So in order to help us grow the mechanical, the mechanical refurbishment repair side of the business has been growing like crazy, and it continues to. And so this addition of all the square footage and overhead cranes and machine tools is going to allow us to grow that department even more. So now we're at 190 Garrison in Nakusa, Wisconsin, 54457. So oddly enough, our factory is about 8 blocks from where I grew up. It's I wasn't really planning it that way, but I ended right up back where I started.
Full circle.
Yep. So you can find us at that physical address, or find us on Google Maps if you want to look at it, see what we look like from above. And happy to help anyone that's interested in stamping and becoming stronger at it. And it's a big part of what we do. As long as we can keep helping our clients get better, we'll do fine. We'll just keep finding people we can help.
That's tremendous. Thank you so much, Todd, for being here today. And I'd like to thank all of our viewers, if you're on YouTube or on the video side, or if you're on the other audio side, we appreciate you listening, and we hope you will continue to do so. Go out and make it a great day.
Sign up on our LinkedIn page.